Hello and welcome to the introduction video for the Neptune DXP eLearning. This is the SAP edition course, which, like the Open edition, is split into 3 levels: Foundation, Advanced and Expert. We recommend completing at least the Foundation and Advanced courses in full, and then take on any Expert lessons where required. Here you can see the main outcomes produced during each level of the course. The applications referenced here are part of the equipment maintenance scenario, which is developed during this course. More details of this later in the video. Throughout building these applications, you'll get hands-on experience with most of the tools and capabilities of the platform, and the expert level will cover off anything that's not covered in the previous 2 levels. We can start by talking about the Neptune DXP and the SAP Edition module. We'll go on to look at the main components, we'll understand the runtime, and then we'll have a look at UI5 within the context of Neptune. Once we've covered this, we'll then have a look at the scenario we will develop, and then I'll link to a range of helpful resources which could come in handy whilst you're taking this course. So let's start with the main components. The Neptune DXP uniquely bridges no-code, low-code and pro-code, increasing an IT team's throughput without locking anyone into a model-driven box. You can connect and compose APIs, you can develop and design responsive, pixel-perfect user experiences, and industrialize the creation of custom-built business apps. The Neptune DXP is composed of 2 modules which complement one another to address the modern enterprise landscape. It's a landscape-agnostic development platform. The first of the 2 modules is the SAP Edition, optimized specifically to work within SAP. It's the only low-code platform certified to sit directly within the NetWeaver stack. It runs as an SAP add-on, which means you need no additional hosting infrastructure to run the Neptune SAP Edition within your SAP environment, and it's compatible with all versions of SAP. This unique position, being embedded within SAP, brings some unique advantages, and we'll have a look at them over this presentation. To complement the SAP Edition is the Open Edition. It shares a lot of similarities with the SAP Edition, but it excels when it comes to integration. It's a Node.js runtime, so it can be hosted anywhere, and both modules can be linked. So together, they form the full DXP solution that covers all bases, and you get the best of both worlds when it comes to leveraging SAP and being able to integrate with anything. You have one common user base between both modules, so if you log in to the Open Edition, you can be simultaneously logged in with your SAP user in the background and proceed to use any SAP functionality just with one single logon within the Open Edition. The DXP solution is a developer-centric platform. This means we're enabling our customers to use their existing in-house expertise to drive their digital transformation journey. The SAP Edition blends into existing development paradigms and tools. Because of this, an ABAP developer will feel at home and empowered by their additional capabilities when armed with the tools within the platform. They can utilize the fact that Neptune is the only product that allows ABAP developers to surface REST APIs and expose SAP business logic and functionality to be used within applications without any further architecture being required. An ABAP developer utilizing Neptune can not only learn to develop applications faster, but can also output developing applications around 10 times faster than traditional Fury development. For the Open Edition, a JavaScript developer can really spread their wings, utilizing a range of low-code, no-code, and pro-code tools. And when working with both modules together and both personas together, the Open Edition developer can then easily create solutions utilizing the SAP APIs created by the ABAP developer without requiring a profound understanding of the back-end SAP system. So here are some of the main components available within the SAP edition. I'd just like to spend a bit of time overviewing each of these to give you a good understanding of what you'll be encountering when you start developing. First up, we have the Launchpad. When you build all of your awesome Neptune applications, you have to get them out to your end users. Applications and other resources can be added to a tile, which is a graphical representation of your resource. Tiles are then arranged into tile groups, and access to each of these applications or tiles and tile groups are highly customizable. Access can be controlled through standard SAP roles and authorization objects. When applications, tiles, and tile groups have been created, you must create desktop launchpads. Desktop launchpads can be accessed through a normal web browser, and they can easily be turned into a mobile client which can be installed on Android, iOS, or Windows. The Neptune Launchpad is designed to work both on desktop and mobile. It's highly responsive, and any applications built and put into a Launchpad will respond to the size of the screen. The Neptune App Designer is the new way of developing UI5 applications directly from your favorite browser. The App Designer implements a combination of drag and drop functionality for the UI5 library, complemented with JavaScript coding for enhanced features and UI and data manipulation. Applications are rendered server-side for optimal performance in all clients. There's a range of low-code and no-code features across this tool, from caching and offline data storage, data model overviews, and automatic translation based on Google Translate. The API Factory is one of the unique tools within the SAP edition. It allows you to easily and automatically build a modern RESTful API layer on top of the SAP business layer, so you can abstract communication with SAP to the same API specifications as standard web processors. And this really unlocks the ability for developers with no SAP experience to work with the database in a more traditional way. We are able to generate REST APIs automatically based on ABAP classes, function modules, and BAPIs, as well as ALV reports, standard and custom. And in the case of ALV reports, we can even automatically generate the UI5 application with zero development needed in the process to create or maintain it. And this approach to integration allows customers to leverage on their SAP investment. All of the customization and code extensions can be made available as a service or via SAP UI5 applications powered by Neptune. There is a tool available within the SAP edition that allows you to generate and test SAP integration cards, which surface and present live data from SAP in a number of formats, which can then easily be assigned to a tile to be presented on a Launchpad. And finally, application building blocks are also available within the SAP edition. These are modular and composable functionalities, ranging from user interface elements to application templates to code snippets. This capability exists because the entire platform is designed to be modular, so there's never a need to reinvent the wheel. Build once and deploy anywhere, not only at an entire application level, but at any level down to individual components. Next, let's have a look at the runtime and the architecture behind the SAP edition. If we have a look at both modules side by side, we can understand the different use cases for them both. The SAP edition is embedded within the SAP NetWeaver stack. It's installed as an add-on via transport. And the Open edition is a Node.js runtime and can be hosted anywhere. So for example, on Google Cloud or AWS. Both modules have different runtimes because of their different positionings. So the SAP edition has an ABAP runtime, whilst the Open edition, being Node-based, has a Node.js runtime. The SAP edition naturally is leveraging the SAP backend, whilst the Open edition can use a number of different databases. Both modules share similar functionalities, so both have the capability to host any number of launchpads. They both have the drag and drop application designer, However, the SAP edition has the API factory, whilst the Open edition has a more general API designer. The Open edition has some unique tools of its own, the script editor and the workflow engine, for example, but both modules can benefit from the concept of application building blocks. So let's have a look at the architecture. Here's the SAP system, and we can see the ABAP runtime and an AJAX interface. This allows the SAP edition to communicate with the ABAP backend, and everything, as you can see, is running inside the SAP system. Out of the top, you can then run a Neptune Launchpad, which is available within the web browser. And here you can host the UI5 applications you build within the platform. If we take this same setup and we add the Open edition to it, you can see the full DXP setup. And essentially, the Open edition acts as the hub, and the SAP edition becomes a spoke. So you run your Neptune Launchpad out of the Open edition, and you can host any applications built in either the Open edition or the SAP edition within the one Neptune Launchpad. However, today we will focus on just the SAP edition, so we'll be utilizing this setup. When it comes to SAP, we're the only SAP certified platform to sit directly within the NetWeaver stack. This is a unique differentiator, and it gives us direct access to ABAP classes and other SAP business logic. We're also completely aligned with this SAP's UX strategy, and the Neptune apps are built on exactly the same technology. So you're also able to have standard Fury apps and Neptune apps and deliver them within the same launchpad. And when you move to S4, you can take all of these applications you've built with you, and you're also able to work all the way up to BTP. Now let's have a look at UI5 within Neptune. The SAP edition leverages the UI5 framework with a drag and drop application designer. So here's some examples. A date picker is simply a component that you can drag and drop and place within a structure within the app designer. Here you can see the date picker by itself, and then if you add a page as a parent component, then this is how the application will look. There are aggregations for components, which is the relationship between two UI elements. So here, for example, we can see that there's a range of components we can put within a page. So an image, a date picker, and a slider all can go within a page as an aggregation. There are certain components which are not designed to go together and will result in an error. So here we can see that the slider is not a valid aggregation for a list. However, a standard list item, for example, is perfectly fine. Here's a few more examples. So we have a icon tab bar with 3 different tab filters, and we can see some text within the first filter. And here's a different example of a menu button with the menu button and then the menu child component with several menu item subcomponents, even with sub-parent components within. Here's an example of a table. It's a SAP M table, which has to specify all of the columns as SAP M columns before you can add your column list item and then define the type of element you'd like to display within each row under each column. Next up, we have events. A number of components within the app designer have events associated with them. For example, a button has a press event. Within the event, you can code any custom logic, and you can utilize the code snippets to do this a lot of the time automatically. So here we have a button which navigates to a new page and sets a list to be visible and shows a message. And then on the right, we have a search field, which has a live change event, which means every time a change is made in the search field, it will run the code. And in this case, we've used a code snippet for filtering a list. There are helpers built in to the properties, so you can click on them and find more information around each event. Next up, we have bindings. UI5 within Neptune utilizes bindings to automatically convert arrays of objects into their UI. So here we can see an array with 4 objects, and then the binding within a list, within an object list item. We've bound to the customer name and the customer number, and we can see the resulting list. With this binding setup, we can deliver any size array to the list, and it will automatically generate it based on the data. Within the SAP edition, you have the ability to set the model source of a number of components. So here, for example, within a table, within a page, we've set the model source to IT_flights. Now, this is available because when we created this application, we've assigned it directly to an SAP application class. This is something we'll cover as we go through the tutorial videos. But this means we have access to the backend structures and tables available within this class, and we can automatically present these within a binding window and then select any of them. With this setup, we can then use the built-in capability to trigger an AJAX call. So we've set the model source of our table based on our application class. There's even a built-in class viewer, so we can see all of the AJAX IDs within the application designer. Here we can take the get flights, and then within the model dialog, we can set the data to be received within the table. And then there's also properties for this table to set the init load to online, and this simply means when the application is loaded, this AJAX ID will be triggered and the data will automatically populate the table as soon as the application loads. There is an alternative way of doing this. Here we can see we've just set the model source for our table, and instead we're going to utilize a separate AJAX component. So here within the properties of that component, we set to the same get flights ID, and then we can set up a script to trigger this AJAX as soon as the application loads. And then within the model of our AJAX component, we can set the data to be received by the table. And then since we've set the model source of our table, we can also see here that that data is used here and received. So now we have a basic understanding, let's have a look at the scenario we'll develop over this course. We will develop an inspection management portal, which will consist of 5 applications that run within a launchpad, ready for desktop, tablet and mobile. The overall purpose of these applications are to create, maintain and generate inspections on pieces of equipment. So here we can have a look at the whole setup. The model will be 2 custom tables, so Z tables set up within the SAP system. And then there are 5 different applications we will develop, with the purpose of being controlled by 2 different personas. So an admin or a manager, and then a group of field workers. The first application will be to create and save new equipment to the equipment table, and this is designed for the admin or the manager to use. The second application will be to view this equipment, edit any details of the equipment, and it has the ability to assign equipment to a field worker. So this application needs access to the equipment table. It will also need to pull from the users within the SAP system. And then finally, it will create an inspection. And then finally, it will create an inspection record within the inspections table. This inspections table is utilized by app 3, which will be to view the inspection task, complete all the details, and then submit the inspection for approval. And this is designed to be used by the field workers. When you submit an inspection for approval, it will become available within the fourth application, the workflow inbox, which is for viewing the submitted inspection details, and it has the ability to approve or reject the inspection. So here we can see that overall flow. A field worker will be assigned an inspection within the second application. When completed, it will be submitted. The admin or manager will then have the ability to approve or reject the submission. If it's approved, the inspection will be marked as complete and the checkup date for the equipment will be updated. If it's rejected, then a new inspection will be created and the original inspection will be marked as rejected. A rejected inspection is then returned to the field worker to complete again. Finally, the fifth application will be an example of an analytical application, which again is designed for the administrator or manager to use. Finally, let's have a look at some helpful resources. First of all, the Neptune community. This is the best place to find blog posts, posts from users on the forum, lots of links to other useful places, as well as all of the documentation for the entire platform. Feel free to reach out and create a post on the community if you're stuck during this e-learning course. You can also check out the Neptune YouTube channel, which is full of how-to videos, interviews, webinars, and other videos looking into life within Neptune software. The account portal is designed to help you manage your Neptune life. Here you can download the platform, either the Open Edition or the SAP Edition. You have access to the mobile build service here within the account portal. More information on this later in the course. There's also access to additional resources, case studies, and the product evaluation guide, and more. And you have access to the DXP cloud for managing your hosted instances. Other useful sites include SAP's UI5 documentation and samples. This can be very handy to get more information around the framework and the components used within the applications within the Neptune DXP. So with that all said, thank you very much and enjoy the course.